Adam, we said anytime anything happens in Texas, we're going to be talking about it. We're going to be writing about it because, again, it is a massive, massive market that could really be a game changer. And we've talked about several of these very rich, very powerful, and very influential people that are within the state that have at least at some point somewhere along the way said that they are in favor of that. We know that the Dallas Cowboys owner in Jerry Jones fits into that category as well. And hey, he spoke this week.
Headline: Man worth $11.4 billion wants thing that makes more money. Film at 11. Do we need more? Well, I guess we have a little bit more that we can talk about there with Jerry Jones. Yeah. So it's not necessarily a surprise because he is part of the Texas Sports Betting Alliance, this lobbying group that has put itself together with a lot of the team owners and other stakeholders who are trying to push for legalized sports betting in Texas. Now, we just started the legislative session on January 10th, so we're in the infancy of the ability to get something moving here. But Jerry Jones did an interview this past week, and I'll read you some of the quotes from him. I think it's really a thing that needs to be addressed at this time. He continued later, all of those things can be enhanced. And talking about things that can be enhanced, he's talking about lowering property taxes and increasing educational funding. Can be enhanced by something that is presently going on in a big, big way, and we should be getting the benefit of it as citizens of Texas. Other states surrounding us are, so it's a time, I think, for us to set the rules up and execute on it and get the benefits of it. And he's absolutely right. Louisiana has captured a lot of money, and we talked about the gentleman who sells betting last week, and the fact that that money has obviously been going to Louisiana over the course of time here, and he resides in Texas. So that's just one example of what we might see. So, in Texas, there's a long way to go. We still have almost 2 full months until a bill actually has to get moving in March for this to have a chance of happening. Remember, of course, in Texas, it is a constitutional change. So we're talking about getting a 2/3 majority and then having voters approve it at the ballot box in November. So a long way to go. But as we've talked about many times on this podcast, Jerry Jones and his $11.4 billion net worth and his franchise that is worth $8 billion do sound quite loud when they decide to use their voice.
And Dustin, he mentions the property taxes there in Texas. So one of the things that we talk about all the time, there are these states that don't have state income tax. Of course, Nevada being one of them, Florida being another, Texas being another. But Texas property taxes are astronomical, right? So they make the money back, so at least a little bit of it back along the way. And that has been kind of one of the things that has certainly been a more hot button issue here, probably even since COVID came along, where people have a lot more time to scrutinize things. And certainly you start looking at these property taxes in Texas going like, hey, why are they so astronomical? What can we do about it? And so he's kind of going, I don't think the low hanging fruit stuff like they did in California, because I think the property tax stuff truly affects everyone in the state pretty much, like 80 to 90% of the people that actually appeals to, unlike, the homelessness issue in California where, that comes up and we were talking about. I mean, there's a lot of rural land in California. There's a lot of people who don't even see homeless people on a daily basis or live in the suburbs, and it doesn't affect them in the least bit. So at least this isn't one of those deals where it's kind of like, oh, let's bring up this thing in the state that, is happening and we're going to change people's minds. Like the property tax stuff in Texas is an actual issue they've been talking about for a long, long, long time.
Yeah. And this is exactly how you approach it. You don't promise like this is some huge windfall for Texas either. I mean, it is new money. It is found money. Whenever you legalize a new form of gambling, found money that the state was not realizing before. So it is that it's something, but it's, I think he's like the middle road. Like, let's just already going on. We should have sports betting and we should make some money off it. These are the very core, this is what the lobbying playbook has been for the 5 years that we've been doing this. And it's, he doesn't go too overboard, so it makes common sense. And that's, I think that's a winning argument that everybody should be behind. It is, he promised bazillions of dollars. That's probably not going to happen. Texas has a huge budget. Sports betting is a, if it is legalized, is a small part of that, but it is new money. And Jerry is a smart person. He's hitting the right notes. He's, has, certainly there's probably focus groups. The alliance is probably, here's what we should be talking about. And there's just the fact that Jerry Jones is using his platform to talk about gambling while his team is still in the playoffs. Like, that's
Right.
interesting, right? People are like, it was basically just a few sentences, but everyone is going to stand up and take notice because Jerry Jones. And, that is weight on the scale for any legislator who's thinking about whether they should support this.
And Adam, just to put a bow on this, I mean, this is stuff that we're talking about right now, and we're getting these guys to start to talk about it a little bit. We talked about the Cuban thing before. We know Tillman Fertitta's stance on this. We know, obviously, the furniture store owner's stance on this. You get Jerry Jones, whatever, and we don't even have a bill yet, right? So, I mean, like, once a bill is actually introduced, then this is really going to crank up, because then we're going to have something tangible for these people to, in theory, get behind.
And representatives from the Sports Betting Alliance told our Mike Mazzio they expect that bill to drop sometime next month, which would obviously give time for it to be massaged and evaluated and tweaked to the liking of many different parties. And look, Texas is an enormous state with many different political bents, and it might take some working for it to get through the legislature and then for it to get through Governor Greg Abbott. So we are absolutely in the infancy of this right now. I would just say that as opposed to other big states, we've talked about Florida, California, and so on, and how difficult those were. The tribal interests in those states and their sovereignty made it a lot more difficult than Texas. So it might not be low hanging fruit, but is the lowest of hanging fruit when it comes to the big states.